Good morning. Good morning. So let's jump into it. Let's jump into it. To it. All right. So for those who don't know, my name is Gwen, and I want to welcome you to Tax Talk with Gwen. Today's topic we want to talk about: do you qualify for head of household? And this is an important topic because a lot of people are getting upset at tax pros in reference to not being able to file the head of household filing status. But I think it's important for everybody to kind of know how the head of household status work and what the requirements for the head of household is. So before I get deep into the topic, if you're watching a replay or you're watching me now, make sure you drop in the comments where you're from. And if you have a small business, drop in the comments like your business website, your business Facebook page, your business TikTok page, whatever represents your business. Okay. So, I'm sorry, y'all. All right. So, do you qualify for the head of household? So, a lot of people think because they pay their own bills in their home that they're the head of their household. Now, for in the real world, if you're paying your own bills, you are the head of your household. But for IRS purposes, you have to meet certain tests in order for you to qualify. One of them is you have to be considered unmarried at the end of the year. We'll get into that a little bit more in a second. Then you have to keep up over 50% of keeping up your home. So that means paying your rent or your mortgage, property tax, groceries, not insurance, groceries. I only want to make sure I'm missing anything, and utilities and maintenance on your home. Okay, now let me go over those again. That means your rent, your groceries. If you own a home, that means your mortgage, interest, property taxes, maintenance, and utilities. That's what you use to calculate whether or not you are the head of your household. And then the other thing is that you have a qualifying child or a qualifying dependent. And that person has to be related to you. So that doesn't mean that if you live with your boyfriend or girlfriend and they don't work and you want to try to claim them on your taxes, I can't tell you that you can't claim them, but I can tell you that you can't qualify for the head of household status if you do so. So the person has to be related to you. That's a part of the test. So a lot of people get different things in order to pay their bills. So you might get government assistance. You might you might get food stamps. So if you are getting any of those things and you're not paying, say, your rent out of pocket, or you might just pay a portion of your rent out of pocket, but once you add your groceries up and you add your the portion of your rent that you pay and the portion of the rent that is paid by someone else is more than those things, then you don't qualify for head of household. So a lot of people get really, really upset when you ask them specific questions or you possibly do not file them head of household and you end up filing them single. You I can't say you can't be getting any of those things, but it has to be a calculation has to be done in order for it to make sense. So an example of that is, for instance, someone who possibly, good morning, Tiffany, possibly somebody who say made 10,000 for the year. And we as tax pros have to ask you questions. And the questions would be, okay, did someone else live with you? Um, um, did you receive any type of assistance for your to pay your bills? And if you say no, right, but you only made $10,000 for the whole year, like, did you have any other income outside of your wages? And you say no, and you only made 10,000 for the year, The average rent is what, about 1,000 now. Now I do know in some cases that rent can be under that. So for instance, I bought a house a long time ago. My mortgage on that house is like $500, right? Somebody lives in that house, so they're only paying. My niece is like only paying that for rent. So in those cases, it are cases where some people might live in a home that might not be that expensive, but what is the likelihood of it, right? So you have to know, right, that in order for you to qualify for the head of household, you got to not be living with someone that pays half of the rent with you. You can't be receiving government assistance. Not government assistance. Your government assistance can't outweigh what you pay. Food stamps, that's considered. Like if you get your groceries from food stamps, that's something that you're not paying for. That's the government is paying for that. So that has to be included in the calculations. So if you're not paying for it, so it's different things. Just because you live in your home by yourself does not automatically qualify you for head of household, and the IRS knows that. The thing that they make us do is, if it don't make sense, like if the income's not adding up, you have to dig deeper to make sure a person qualifies for the actual credit. And a lot of people, I know a lot of people are used to filing the head of household status just because they have a dependent. But it is a such thing as filing single with the dependent, and you're still getting different credits for your dependents. So we having a lot of tussle with that, as far as a lot of taxpayers being upset that they're not able to file head of household. But in order to file head of household, you have to meet tests and you have to qualify for those credits. Okay. Now, you have married people who are confused on whether or not what they're supposed to be filing. So ultimately, you would think that it's two filing statuses: one which is married filing joint, one that's married filing separate. But you have a lot of married couples who don't want to file together, and they're going for the biggest refund. So instead of filing married filing joint or married filing separate, they elect to file single and head of household. So I had someone to call me yesterday to try to get details on how they really are supposed to file when it comes to they're still being married and them and their spouse not living together. So if you are married and you and your spouse did not live together the last 6 months of the year, y'all lived apart, y'all lived in different homes, and it was the last 6 months of the tax year, you can be considered head of household if you have a dependent and if you meet the other qualifications of paying over 50% of the upkeep of your home. If you and your spouse live together in the same home, when you're filing your taxes, you are supposed to be either married filing joint or married filing separate. And if you file married filing separate, the reason why a lot of people don't like to file married filing separate, because for whatever reason, the IRS penalize people who file married filing separate filing status, and you don't qualify for certain credits. Now, one of the credits you did not used to qualify for was EITC, but married filing separate taxpayers now qualify for EITC. But there are other credits that you don't qualify for if you elect to select the married filing separate filing status. But I get the question all the time from married people. Yes, you are supposed to file married filing joint or married filing separate if you are not living in the same house. If you're not, oh, my bad, y'all. If you are living in the same household, you are supposed to file married filing joint, married filing separate. And so a lot of times, again, we be confused on what our filing status is. And the thing about it is, when you're getting your taxes done by a tax pro, you cannot come into the tax company telling them what you are filing. Okay? The tax pro is supposed to qualify you for whatever filing status you qualify for based off the information that you provided. Okay, so everybody don't qualify for head of household. Now, I do need to tell you this, and I need to say this real loud. I wish I could get right in this camera and let you really understand. Okay, the standard deduction for head of household for 2023 tax year, which is what we're filing now, is $20,800. Okay, if you don't know how the standard deduction works, that means to me, I call it a government give me. So the government gives you a certain dollar amount based off your filing status that you're not going to be taxed on. That means you will not have a tax liability as long as you make under this dollar amount. Okay, that's what the filing statuses do. So for the head of household filing status, it is $20,800. If you make under $20,800, I'm not going to tell you that you don't qualify for head of household. But what I can tell you is that it doesn't matter if you file single or head of household. Okay, and I say that because a lot of taxpayers get extremely upset when they're not allowed to file head of household, and they mad at the preparers, and it makes not one difference in their refund at all. They're assuming that the tax pro is cheating them out their money because they did not file them head of household. So again, if you made under $20,800, it does not affect your refund at all, whether or not you file head of household or single, if you have a dependent. At all. Well, you know, head of household, you got a dependent anyway. So I think that's very, very, very important for a lot of you all to know, because I know a lot of tax pros are telling you that you don't qualify to file the head of household status, and you are mad because you're saying, I have filed the head of household status all my life. But if you don't qualify for it, we are not supposed to file you with that filing status. And I'm going to tell you why tax pros are making sure that you qualify for it before you actually file it. And this is because head of household status is one of the credits that the IRS holds tax pros accountable for if we give that credit to taxpayers. Meaning that if we didn't do what we are supposed to do and ask the questions that we are supposed to ask in reference to qualifying you for that credit. And say, for instance, I have 100 clients, and I filed 100 clients that made under $20,000 head of household, regardless if they qualify for it or not. The IRS is going to audit me. For sure. Okay? They will audit the tax pro for sure. And the reason why is because in their eyes, there's no way that many people qualified for HOH that made under that dollar amount. Now, mind you, you can qualify for it. I'm not going to tell you, because you can have other income that's not taxable. You can stay in a house that's paid for. You can have rent that's not that much. Everybody's not on rental assistance. Everybody do not get food stamps. So yes, you could qualify for head of household, make it under that dollar amount. But in the IRS eyes, if a tax pro is filing that many returns with that many people that makes under that amount and they are HOH, then we get audited at the end of the year. Our files get audited, and we can get fined $600 just for the HOH. Okay? $600 off the roof. So, again, if you do not qualify for the HOH, a lot of tax pros, it doesn't matter if you've done it in the past. It doesn't matter if you've been filing it since you've been filing taxes. It doesn't matter. It is about whether or not you qualify for it or not. Okay? So, Just don't assume because you got a child that you're supposed to get head of household. It's different requirements. And again, the requirements is you have to be considered unmarried. You have to be claiming filing a qualifying dependent or relative, and you have to pay over 50% of the upkeep of your home. And things that are not considered the upkeep of your home is car notes. That's not upkeep of your home. Car notes, medical expenses. I wrote it down so I can make sure I don't forget that. The education expenses, clothing. None of those things are considered in that calculation. The only thing they consider in that calculation is rent, groceries. If you pay a mortgage interest, your mortgage interest. If you pay property taxes, your property taxes, your utilities, repairs to your home. That's what they consider as over 50% of the upkeep of your home. Okay. So I just want to come shed some light on how or what is qualification for head of household. Know this. A lot of times you can come into a tax company and you can tell us that you only made this income, and if you made a low amount of income, and when you say you are head of household and that you don't receive any assistance, okay, everybody don't receive assistance, but the other thing is you're probably mad. You could be married and you're just not telling nobody, right? Somebody else in the household that you're married to is helping you pay those bills. You could have a side under the table job that you're trying not to report. That's why it's real important for us to make sure that we're asking those questions. And if all your answers is no, 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 we have to keep asking questions until it makes sense. So, ultimately, we don't want to, as tax pros, do not want to have to dig all into your life. But as tax pros, again, for the head of household filing status, if we don't, we are subject to get audited by the IRS at the end of the year, and we are subject to have to pay $600 for you because you wanted to file head of household, and we didn't get the exact answer that we needed to say, okay, you do qualify for head of household. So I hope this helped a lot of y'all. For those who may do their own taxes, you do need to make sure that you do understand whether or not you qualify for head of household or not, because head of household is one of those credits that you can be audited for. And if you can't prove it, then you'll be denied that credit. So make sure that you definitely qualify for it before you actually file yourself for it. And when you're filing single with dependents, you're getting different credits for your dependents. Now, if you make a certain dollar amount and you live with somebody, it could possibly harm you if you make high income and you don't get to file the head of household status, because unfortunately you might not be paying over 50% of your upkeep of your home. But for the most part, again, the standard deduction for head of household is $20,800. So if you know that you made under $20,800 and your tax profile, you single, you ain't lost a dollar, right? And it's not going to affect you and your taxes one way or the other. Okay? Just make sure if you qualify for head of household, you're telling the tax pros why you qualify. Okay. So I hope all this information has helped you. We are in the deep dive of tax season. If you need a tax pro, make sure you reach out to us. We do taxes for all states nationwide through our virtual service at xperttaxservices.com. I've been on here too long already because I got a lot of files to go do. But again, I hope this helps you. Make sure you share this video out. Make sure you tag people, because I know a lot of y'all is out there running, having conversations in reference to being mad that your tax pro might didn't file you had a household this year, and you might just didn't qualify. So, again, make sure you share the video out. If you're just coming in, you're just watching a replay, make sure you drop where you're from. Make sure if you own a small business, you put your small business link in the comments. Latrice, you asked, I don't know if you're still on here, did they pass a self-employment for child tax credit? I don't know nothing about no self-employment when it comes to child tax credit. But if you asking about the child tax credit, have they passed that? The last thing I knew, unless they did something over in the night, is that the House has passed it. I don't think the Senate has passed it yet. And as soon as they pass it, if they pass it, because we don't know if they're going to pass it or not, I will do a tax talk just to break down how the credit's going to work, okay? Because it's going to affect everybody different. Okay, y'all. I'll see y'all next week. Bye.